The man that we're about to speak to, we're going to extend our weather forecast again. Our weather forecast for a town called Sandusky, which is in Ohio in the United States. Currently, it's 8 degrees. A high temperature of 10 today. It's currently 8. What is it?
Is that Fahrenheit or Celsius?
Celsius, because I don't talk about Fahrenheit. It's too old-fashioned.
I bet our guest does.
It probably does. It's 8 minutes past 8 p.m. on a Friday there, and I really hope he's not outside because in the next 15 minutes it's going to start raining. His name is Craig Wessels. Wessels, I'll try that again. Craig Wessels, and he hosts a podcast called A Yank on the Footy. G'day, Craig.
Hello there, Neil, and hello, Mr. Cameron. Great to talk to you, gentlemen.
Nice to have you on board. Now, the reason I said Wessels, there used to be a cricketer played for Australia called Kepler Wessels. His surname was spelt the same way.
Yeah, South African, I believe, correct?
Correct,
Yes.
Indeed. Here's a man who knows his Aussie sport.
Yeah.
Now, the question I have for you before we get started on your podcast is, presumably you get paid to do the work you do, not on your podcast, in your teaching career. When you need to withdraw money, do you go down to one of the banks of Ohio? You see what I've done there?
Going with it. Yes, I know exactly where you're going.
Yeah, no. Excellent. Well played, me. Okay, so your podcast is called A Yank on the Footy. I think we would get ourselves into strife if we described you as a Yank. I don't think that's politically correct anymore. What is a Yank on the Footy, and why did you call it that?
Well, I believe I have, as I told somebody before, I'm trying to move from Seppo to Yank is what I'm trying to do.
Yes, and well played you.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I became very enamored with the game back in 2016. I started watching the game on Friday nights when I would come home from the games that I was announcing with Gridiron Football here, and there were games here and there on television, and it became something that I was enamored with, and it's been almost all consuming with me. I have become kind of as far as sport goes, kind of an Aussie at heart because I hardly watch any American sports anymore. I watch cricket a little bit. I've really gotten into that recently, and I pretty much watch as many games as I can every weekend. So I average about 5 or 6 of the games each round, each weekend that I'm watching.
Craig, was the initial connection just stumbling across some Australian rules football on the internet?
Well, actually, one of the Fox channels from Fox Sports here in the U.S. Carry usually between 5 and 6 games each weekend, and then their Fox Soccer pay kind of like KO will carry the other games. And I now have the Watch AFL app where I've got all the Fox Footy program and that sort of thing. But yeah, I pretty much did stumble upon it. Yeah, I knew it existed back on ESPN when it started back in the 80s, but I really didn't watch it much then. I mean, I was busy going to college and marriage and divorce and all that sort of thing. So,
at around the same time, 2016, I was living in Sydney, and a friend of mine was involved with the New South Wales Waratahs, their rugby union side. He said, "Come along and see a game." So I went to the football stadium and trying to work out exactly what they were trying to do, what the rules of the game were. And there were a couple of young fellas sitting in front of me, and I thought to myself, they've been brought up with this game, so the rules are the rules. They would understand. They could explain it really easily. I guess you growing up, not having had any exposure to Australian rules football, the game, trying to understand how Australian rules football operates, and then, if that wasn't enough, to try and work out the rules of cricket, how did you learn that? Because clearly the commentators don't know what they're talking about.
Aren't they technically the laws of the cricket, though?
Oh, look at you go. They are the laws of cricket. Well played.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I started watching. Yeah, I tried to learn by watching. I did run across a very well done cricket video in terms of the laws of cricket that the British comedian Stephen Fry did, which was tremendously well done. I actually read a book called Cricket for Dummies, which I have a copy of.
Probably written by Rob.
I've actually had that gentleman. I actually had on as a guest on my podcast, as a matter of fact.
Oh, there you go.
But as far as the rules for footy, even if I get one wrong once in a while, I don't feel too terribly bad because let's be honest. To this day, Mr. Cameron's club and my club have been around since 1859, and they're still trying to figure out holding the ball and the stand rule right now. So I mean, it's not like I'm that far behind the pack on that.
Now, I do need to draw out to this that currently Rob is sitting on the other side of the desk from me, and he's wearing a navy blue and white shirt that has the words Geelong Cats and a motor vehicle sponsor on the front of it. And I suspect if I know you, you're probably wearing a shirt that's of a similar design. Why on earth would you choose, he says bravely in the town of Geelong, why on earth would you choose that lot to barrack for?
Well, when I was deciding on what club I wanted to support, I came to the realization that I kind of wanted to support a club that was not in kind of like the hub of footy, which I looked at as being Melbourne. And so I'd actually narrowed it down to finally two clubs, and it was Brisbane and it was Geelong. And I had many family members in my family who worked for that automobile manufacturer for close to 150 years combined. So, and that was one of the things that pushed me into that camp. And I had one player that played for the Cats that I saw a game. I believe it was 2017 against Carlton, where this player, Micaiah Cockatoo, made a tackle down in the pocket. Where when he finally landed with the player that he tackled, they were almost up against the boards along the side where the moving signs are, where they're telling you to drink water, to do whatever it is that they're trying to do, with the advertising there. And I was like, that reminded me a little bit of gridiron football. And I thought, okay, I narrowed it down to those two, and I thought at that point in time, that's what pushed me into the Cats camp. And I'm so very happy that I did choose that, despite the last couple of years of someone else's club winning more premiers.
Ironically, had you seen the same player playing 2 or 3 years later, he would have been wearing a Brisbane jumper.
Exactly, yes, yep. And he is somebody that I'm still working to try to get as a guest on the podcast. It's just, basically kind of like a hat tip and a thank you for helping push me into the Cats camp, if you will, and getting me excited about the game and kind of galvanizing my appreciation for this sport that, quite frankly, I've fallen head over heels in love with.
So if anyone is listening and they do have some contact details for Micaiah Cockatoo, please get in touch with Rob or myself, and we'll make sure that when Craig is in Australia, we arrange some kind of catch-up for him.
That would be really cool. Hey, sorry, Craig, I can't leave without mentioning the connection between the Geelong Football Club and Ford, very much an American company, but they set up
an automotive vehicle manufacturing company.
Yes, that's them. The connection with the city of Geelong and the Geelong Football Club. This sponsorship arrangement is the longest running in the history of any sporting club anywhere in the world, and still continues despite the fact that Ford no longer manufacture in Geelong. They still have people employed here in the design department, but that is an extraordinary relationship.
Yeah, it's tremendous, and it's. Yeah, and I appreciate the what makes, to me, footy uniquely different from what we have here in North America. We now have started to see some sponsorship things that are happening during preseason games in the NFL and with baseball on their jerseys or their uniforms that they're wearing. I know people joke around here that we should also have our politicians that have their on there.
Very good point. Very good point indeed. Now let's get back to just the game in general. I could talk about Geelong forever, but I think that's a bit selfish. You've genuinely fallen in love with the game, and that's fantastic. What about your other friends that you try to introduce the game to? Because you've got a game that is just connects the masses, and that is gridiron or American football. I find it difficult to comprehend as an entertainment package because it's so stop, start. I suppose if you're there on the day, there's all the other razzmatazz in between. But I would have thought for entertainment, Australian rules football should be better because it's just constant flow of pace and skill and strength and courage that I would have thought leaves your homegrown game for dead.
I would agree with you there. And I do think there's a lot of stop-start. With the action, only out of 3 hour block of time the game is played, there's only maybe 15 or 20 minutes worth of actual gameplay that's taking place, and then there's a lot of the instant replays and that sort of thing that go on where, the commentators are talking about what's going on in the game. And let me ask you this: is there been more stops? And this is not to condemn footy at all, but I'm just curious, with all of the ball ups that we see in footy, and all of the congestion, has that become an issue where you, who's been following the game for much longer than I have found that maybe the game of footy has gotten bogged down a little bit?
Well, bogged is an interesting word, because back in the days of a normal winter in Australia, there would have been a great deal of mud on the ground, and the game was congested, and a lot of ball ups and tackling quite congested, because the ball was wet and didn't travel very far. So we were used to it as young players. Then the grounds improved, the weather changed. We don't have a lot of wet winters anymore. So we're seeing the game flow a lot more for a period, and then tactically, to slow the game down, it became very defensive, and then we had more of this ball up tackle action. So we've probably been used to it for different reasons over a long period of time, but at the moment it's probably fairly entertaining for general flow with not too much interruption.
Right, and when I show the game to other people, and again, I still have never actually had a person at my house to watch a game, and a game live. I can show highlights here and there. Now, I'm a school teacher. I'm a high school teacher. So when I get to school in the morning, I'll usually watch the first half of a game at home and then drive to school during halftime and watch the second half of school. And then usually the last, for example, today, the Fremantle Western Bulldogs game was ending just as the first bell hit. So I think it was Josh Tracy that had the last kick after the siren was, making that kick as the morning announcements had started. And then I turn the TV up. But usually I've got kids that are showing up, 10 or 15 minutes early, and some of them really get fascinated by it and get into it and ask questions. And when they see the difference of the size of the ground that they play on, and I just showed that to a student today, and I showed them the size of the MCG's footprint compared to an NFL field, and I told them, I said, you could really take an NFL field and put it at the where on the line where the center bounce is, and you could put the field that way across if you chose to do so, because it's a wide enough field to allow you to do that sort of thing.
And this is part of the problem, because we've got, I think, a couple of the NFL sides coming out to Australia shortly to play a game.
Right.
I've been and seen Olympic soccer on the MCG. Because the playing area is so small, they centralise it, obviously. And so from the edge of the playing area to the fence, you can hardly see the game. It's so small compared with the size of the stadium.
Right. Yeah, and it's not, if I'm not mistaken, Marvel Stadium has the ability to move their seating around inside the facility, right?
It can be done, but they don't do it very often. They only do it if there's something special, like one of the international soccer teams are coming. Certainly, the one in Sydney allows that.
Yeah, because I know they don't do that. I don't think the MCG is designed to do that sort of thing. But yeah, it is a different game. I mean, you could almost theoretically, I could see a time, and I'd have to do, we'd have to do the math work on it, but you could probably find where you could actually run 2 NFL games simultaneously at the MCG.
Just about.
Probably, yeah.
You put a third one out in the car park.
Well, on at one time.
Craig, participation in America, I know there's some areas where there's a few expats around. It might be more California where there's some Australian rules competitions, but in your neck of the woods, does anyone actually play it at all?
Absolutely, yeah. There's over 50 USAFL teams here in the United States. The closest one would be in there's actually 4 that I know of. There's one in Cleveland called the Cleveland Cannons. There's the Columbus Cats, which is our state capital. There are the Cincinnati Dockers, and then the newest one in Ohio is one that actually got started, and I had a couple of these young men on my podcast a couple of years ago, and I'm assuming they graduated, but the University of Cincinnati actually got a USAFL club up and running at the university itself, because here in North America, once you finish playing high school sports, there really isn't anything beyond that. You may go to the local recreation center and play pickup basketball with your friends or that sort of thing, but there's nothing like a master's league for gridiron football or for baseball or for basketball necessarily. It's pretty much when you turn 18 or 19 years old, if you're not playing at the collegiate level, it's pretty much over. And you have to resort to becoming a golfer or maybe playing tennis with another friend or that sort of thing. But,
Or a podcaster.
Yeah, well, that's a real oddity for us to understand, because in the city of Geelong, and let's call our region is 350,000 people. There's the Geelong Football Club, certainly, and Geelong's second team play in a VFL competition. But there's 34 other clubs in our region that play every weekend. They have 2 teams, so if you're talking about extras, that would involve 50 adult males as well as a massive junior component. So people that have gone past ever playing at the highest level, there would be a couple of thousand every weekend still participating.
And women as well.
And women as well as women's football comps as well. So that's the oddity for us comparing to America. Once your dream of professional stops, the whole game stops. But for here, it really just starts.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the things that high school sports is king here as far as sports goes for teenagers. High school sports is the big thing. But one of the things that just fascinates me that and I'm going to be in Australia in mid-July for a month. What I cannot wait to go to visit some local footy clubs, because to me it is just such an awesome thing, because from everything that I've seen on the outside looking in, and I've interviewed a number of people who've worked with and been involved with local footy clubs, that it's kind of like the hub around which the wheel of that community rotates.
Sounds like the ideal thing to have a podcast about, like the A to Z of Regional Footy Clubs podcast, maybe.
Exactly, yes. And I'm absolutely thrilled that Neil's got that up. You got that up and running, because it's awesome. Because I think that those things need to be promoted. And I know that there are some places around Australia that, especially when you guys have country footy, that it's really struggling to survive. And I know that there are people that do a lot of work to advocate and go play like a lot of one-off games. And I know that somebody who I had on my podcast early on, Ricky Nixon, who I didn't think he was going to come on, and we had a great conversation. He does a lot of work with local clubs where he and Dane Swan and other former players go out and will play a one-off game as kind of a fundraiser for the clubs. And it's just awesome for them to do that. I wrote a big story about that on my blog, on my website, which it's neat that people who played the game at the highest level give back to the lower levels, because without those younger kids playing the game, the AFL is going to cease to exist in many years, because you've got so many kids that are playing soccer now, so many kids that are becoming interested in basketball. There's concerns about health risks and that sort of thing. And I think statistically you might probably find more concussions in soccer than in footy, but I think there's more in soccer here in North America than there is in gridiron football.
Well, today Dusty Martin is running out for the Port Douglas Crocs against the Cairns Cutters. So there's a really good example. Before we let you go and have your dinner or whatever you do on a Friday night in Sandusky in Ohio, we're going to get one word, well, maybe 2 in some cases, because it'd be hard to do it in one word, answers to who's going to win the following games this weekend. Essendon, Brisbane.
Brisbane.
I hope so, because I'm going shortly. West Coast and Richmond.
On my show, I tipped Richmond, but I think it might be West Coast, because Sam Lawler's going to be out because of an Achilles issue.
Geelong and North Melbourne.
I'm cheering for Geelong to win, but if they play like they did last week at Port, North Melbourne's going to get them.
Carlton and St Kilda.
I'm going to go with St Kilda on that one. Carlton is a rabble right now. They are, the wheels have fallen off that club.
Tomorrow, Sydney Swans and Melbourne.
I'm going to go with the Swans on that one.
And Gold Coast and the GWS Giants tomorrow night.
I'm going to go with Gold Coast, because I believe they're at home, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, correct. Yes,
that is correct. Craig, I hope that you have Geelong on your 1-month Australian visit.
Try and keep him away.
We'd love to have you in here for a face-to-face chat, and if you would allow, I'd love to be your host to take you to a country football club and game or games on a Saturday afternoon here in Geelong. I'm sure you would love it, and I'm sure you'll take back some great stories for your listeners in America, and hopefully convert a few more to the great game of Australian rules football.
one of the things that I'm looking to do when I'm there is I've been joking that I'm going to try to get a hold of as many local footy polo shirts that I can just wear to school for the next couple of years before I retire. That's all I have to wear.
What size shirt is it?
Well, in your size, it will probably be a 3X in your size.
All right, so people, if you're listening and you're part of a country footy club and you want a bit of promo in America, get hold of us, get a 3XL shirt to us, and we will make sure that it arrives in the hands of Craig when he gets here. The podcast is called A Yank on the Footy. The website is ayankonthefooty.com. Go there, support Craig, because he is fighting the good fight in the United States for our great game. What a thrill to chat to you, Craig, and enjoy your time until you get here, and we'll see you when you do.
Neil, thanks so very much for chatting with me, and Rob, thanks very much. I'm glad to meet you, sir, and cannot wait to meet you gentlemen in person.
Good on you, mate.
There he is.
Travel
Craig,
safe till then.
Indeed. Craig Wessels from the United States, A Yank on the Footy. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
There he goes.
Bye.